Good evening, everyone. This is the Air Conservation Commission meeting. This is Thursday, December 17th, 2020. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Baker issued an emergency order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be broadcast live on Channel 8 and on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by following the call-in information on the bottom of the live broadcast screen. For the Zoom meeting information related to remote participation, please contact Cindy Knox, IT Director at cknox@ayer.ma.us or at 978-772-8252. In attendance with us this evening, commission members are Jenna, member, George Bacon, member, Jess Eugenio, clerk, Mark Phillips, vice chair, and myself, John Schmallenberger, chair. Welcome, everyone. And do we have confirmation of agenda?
The agenda is good the way it's written.
Okay, is there a motion to confirm the agenda as written?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No. Agenda has been confirmed. Do we have approval of meeting minutes? Everyone read the meeting minutes? From,
I haven't read them.
okay, from December 3rd. Any changes, comments? Nope. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 3rd as written?
So moved.
Second.
We'll take a roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. Do we have any, well, we have a payables report. Do we have a report, Joanne?
Not this time.
Okay, all right, well, very good. Then we'll get started. And the first item this evening is the public hearing continued notice of intent at 0 Central Avenue, Mr. John Hillier, DEP file number 100-0451. And I see Mr. McKay, you are with us this evening. How are you, sir?
I'm well, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having us tonight.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Yep. How'd you make out in the storm?
Okay, so far.
Okay, so far.
Some more shoveling to do tomorrow, but thank you.
That's it's okay. And Kyle, nice to see you as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You as well.
Yeah. Is there any discussion about the notice of intent as it has been written? I guess it was amended. Any discussion from commissioners or any comments from Mr. McKay and Mr. Bouchard?
So
I guess I'll just address briefly that. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, I was just going to say if somebody could summarize the changes that were made, that would be good. Either you or Joanne or Kyle.
Okay, I'll take a shot at it, and then I'll leave the real expert work to Kyle, because I'm sure I'll mess it up. But the long and the short of it is that just before the last meeting, I think we had received, or maybe it was just afterwards, I can't remember the sequence exactly, but we had received two things. One was comments from DEP, and the second was the draft order of conditions from the commission. So we had provided some comments to the order of conditions just in advance of the last meeting, I believe, trying to address some of the issues that have been raised. I think we've done that. The primary issue that came up was with respect to flagging the bank. And to address that issue, which was an issue raised by DEP, to address that, we've added language to the NOI and specifically to the order of conditions, that in the event that Mr. Hillier does any maintenance work in the channel, that he will have that flagged so that we're not encountering that issue or incurring any work in the BVW. So that's captured in, I believe, paragraph 31, which is one of the perpetual conditions. And the language that was added in there was this maintenance work may occur below the bank and not in the bordering vegetated wetlands. Before such work may occur, the applicant must flag the top of the bank on both sides of the stream channel to clarify where the work will occur. So that was, I think, the primary substantive issue. And other than that, just, some kind of wordsmithing here and there. And that was really about it from a substantive standpoint.
Thank you. Kyle, do you have some comments?
Just the addition of a stormwater management checklist and the O&M plan just being updated for those elements that Mr. McKay was talking about for the flagging of the bank and the removal of sediments. So that would be just the only addition. The stormwater management checklist was also provided.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any comments from commissioners about the notice of intent? Yes.
Just on the DEP comments had also talked about the notice of intent submitted as buffer zone only, but was noting alteration of 1,187 square feet of BVW. And I assume this means any maintenance work that's in the intermittent stream channel itself is the resource area. Has that been addressed? Because I believe Joanne was having issues checking off boxes in the order of conditions, the state's form, that had been indicated the DEP might not accept it. And that's what we're trying to have, is an order of conditions that DEP wouldn't reject and cause more trouble. So has that been addressed in the revised notice of intent sufficiently? Joanne?
Well, let's see how Kyle is going to explain this to us.
Well, we provided information on December 1st that did all of that and adjusted the language in the form. And so I hadn't heard anything back of any question.
I think when I reviewed the updated NOI, it was still checked as buffer zone only.
Because there would be the idea was, and following the lead of the circuit rider, was that there would be no BVW disturbance. It would be in the channel where there's the sediments that are there. And so the bank would be flagged so that there wouldn't be any disturbance of any bank.
Right. So it is, resource areas are being affected, and the notice of intent says buffer zone only. So
maybe land underwater, temporary disturbance.
yeah, I think it probably is land underwater.
Okay, so we can just update that form. And I hadn't heard if there were any other questions on the, we had some suggested edits to some of the orders.
Yeah, and I haven't had a chance to review the edits yet. But if what is being explained is the case, that the bank will be flagged, and that's reflected in a perpetual condition, we should be okay.
Yep, it's worded such that anytime there's the work to be done, those flags will be refreshed. So when the initial work is done, in order to remove the sediments, the bank will be flagged to protect it. And any other time whenever the periodic maintenance is warranted to go in and remove the sediments, then the bank flagging will be refreshed.
Okay, and we should probably think about having a condition that says that the commission will be notified ahead of any work to be done in the channel itself.
I believe we
In
do
the
have
special
that.
Conditions already or no?
Yeah, I thought that was in there.
I think it's in there. I'm looking for the language of exactly where that is, but I'm nearly certain that that was in there.
Okay, well, that's good.
So then, based on what we're saying, so it'll change to buffer zone and land underwater, not one or the other, right? Or is it no longer buffer zone at all, I guess?
You know, I'd have to look at the form, and I don't have one here with me. But I think Kyle and I can sort that out. Kyle, if that's all right with you, we'll just,
Sounds good to me.
that would be good. It really was not possible to do the order of condition form based on what was in the notice of intent. So having those two documents in alignment is a good place to start. So if we have to start with the order and work backwards towards the notice of intent, that's all right with me too.
Very good.
I think we're just looking for a document that the DEP is not going to question and refuse, just so we can get this thing moving. Any other comments from commissioners? Any comments from anyone who is listening or viewing on Zoom? Okay. Shall we vote on the notice of intent? So is there a motion to approve the notice of intent at 0 Central Avenue, Mr. John Hillier, DEP file number 100-0451 as written?
Or as
As amended.
revised
As
and
revised,
to
I'm
be
sorry.
revised
Has to be
further
revised, yep.
under CA's watchful eye.
Both of them.
The order of conditions, not the notice of intent.
Yes, correct. Oh, I'm sorry. Motion to approve the orders of condition at 0 Central Avenue, Mr. John Hillier, DEP file number 100-0451 as amended and under the watchful eye of our CA.
So moved.
Second.
We'll do a roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jess? Mark?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. So the orders have been approved.
Thank you.
Oh, of course, thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess the next item this evening is a question about the enforcement order at 0 Central Avenue, Mr. John Hillier. And I guess the question is, have you met the requirements that we asked you to withdraw the enforcement order and the tickets were already revoked. But the question is now is on the enforcement order. And do we have any comments from commissioners? George, I think you had a comment for us.
Well, I think he's met the conditions. That was just to stop work and file a notice of intent. But I don't know that a withdrawal is necessary. I mean, if we can make a note that he has done what he has to, but I don't think withdrawal is the correct term here.
What would you say what's the correct term?
I think we can just agree that he's met all the conditions. and he's no longer subject to the enforcement order.
Okay. Jess, you have comment?
Well, I'm sort of torn. On the one hand, at our last meeting that we discussed this, we had discussed this and at that time decided to lift the tickets, but retain the enforcement order. If we were to lift the enforcement order now, I would probably want to see a condition added to the order of conditions that said, you know, the deadline in the order of June 1st, I think it is, 2021, for the plantings is firm and irrevocable, and that lack of compliance with that deadline would result in immediate ticketing without forgiveness. The concerns generally have just been, you know, this has been going on for almost 2 years and there's not a huge amount of trust. So I think, Jen, you used the word leverage, retaining some leverage. So if we were to lift the enforcement order, I would add a condition to the order that explicitly stated fines would be immediately applied June 2nd for lack of compliance, something like that.
Okay. And Jen, do you have some comments?
No, I think Jess said it. I think no problem moving forward, as George suggested, as long as we have that order in there, that we have something to kind of fall back on in case this doesn't happen the way we want it to.
Mark?
I guess I'm misunderstanding exactly what has changed since, again, it was 2 meetings ago. I missed the last one. I don't think we talked about this at that one, but the prior meeting, you know, we agreed that the idea would be we'd lift the tickets, as just said, and the enforcement order would be held until the June 1st plantings, and upon that happening, enforcement order goes away. So I guess I don't understand why we're still hashing this out. Why is that just not progressing? Maybe, is there something we're missing, Mr. McKay?
Sorry, I thought I was on mute for a second.
No.
So, you know, I think it's up to the commission as to how they want to handle that aspect of it. One of the issues that I had raised with town council, and I think Joanne was on there as well. I think, you know, our preferred option is the way that the order of conditions is presently drafted, which says that the plantings will be done by June 1, 2021, and failure to complete the tree planting by this date shall result in the issuing of fines of up to $300 per day, each day being a separate offense. So my view is that I recognize the history of this matter. I hope that Mr. Hillier has gained some credibility with the commission in, you know, preparing the NOI, agreeing to all of the plantings that were requested, and we've set a firm deadline for that. So, you know, that's plenty of incentive, I think, for my client to make sure that that work gets done on a timely basis. So that's our preference for how the issue of the enforcement orders gets resolved. I don't think I'm too concerned about the specific language of the motion. I thought that having them withdrawn was the appropriate language for that. But if there were a vote that said something on the lines that Mr. Hillier has satisfied all of the conditions referenced in those enforcement orders, I think that's satisfactory too. Just something on the record that with the filing of the NOI and the issuance of the order of conditions that, you know, was pretty firm as far as getting the plantings done, that satisfies any obligations that he has under the enforcement orders. That's what we were hoping to have happen tonight.
Well, I agree that there's been a little bit of loss of trust over the course of 2 years, but it seems to me that the intentions are good. The notice of intent has been filed and we have orders. And if they don't comply, then we fine them again. So I think I've been kind of in favor of lifting the enforcement order myself. So is this something that we vote on to lift it?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other comments?
John, I just want to add, I've been racking what's left of my brain here to think of the word that DEP uses when they're talking about enforcement orders, and it's resolved. So when the things that the commission has asked to be done have been done, thank you. The enforcement order, it becomes resolved. So satisfied, I suppose, is another word, but DEP does talk about a resolution of an enforcement order.
Okay. So how would that be worded? Not exactly sure.
Do we have to notify DEP that it's been resolved?
I don't think we have to. I think it's an internal commission matter. A letter could be drafted to Mr. Hillier outlining what we asked and when those various tasks were completed. And that the commission considers the enforcement order resolved or is satisfied with the state of affairs. Hard to think on my feet here how that letter might look, but
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I don't mean to speak out of turn. I don't know if it's the case, if this makes sense. It seems as if there's a mechanism in the order of conditions that would impose fines and open Mr. Hillier up to additional enforcement orders in addition to those fines, I imagine, at the discretion of the commission and the agent. So it seems as if all those enforcement orders were saying, submit the notice of intent, submit the restoration plan. And so whether it seems as if this new order that will be issued, or this order that will be issued under this notice of intent, would then, give the commission the appropriate mechanisms to levy additional fines, to have that leverage that I think that you're seeking.
Okay, thank you.
We've got about a minute left, John.
Thank you,
Mr.
Pam.
Chairman, I have a suggestion just in terms of language for the board for a motion in that regard. The suggestion of using the word resolved is fine by me. And my suggestion would be that the commission, a motion that the commission finds that the enforcement orders, and they are the numbers stated in the NOI, are resolved for Mr. Hillier at this address.
Okay. Any other comments from commissioners? Anyone listening or viewing on Zoom?
And then Joanne, you'll circulate the amended order to us, right?
oh yes, absolutely.
So just so we get this correct, it's a motion to resolve the enforcement order?
How about a motion to issue a letter to the applicant or to Mr. Hillier that the commission finds that the issues noted in the enforcement orders have been resolved satisfactorily.
Is there a motion?
So moved. The signature by the chair and copy to DEP.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Not for me.
Yep. All right, we'll do a roll call. It was moved by George Bacon. It was seconded by Jennifer Amaya. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jess?
Aye.
Mark?
Nay.
Chairman votes aye. Motion is passed 4-1. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
sir.
Yep.
Have a
you
good
all
night.
take care.
Happy
Good night.
holidays. Stay safe.
Happy holidays to you. Next,
We need to either close,
Oh,
we either need to close or continue the hearing.
okay.
I think we need to continue just to approve signing it, the order of conditions.
All righty. Is there a motion to continue the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call. It was moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jess?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. All right, our next item this evening is the public hearing, continued notice of intent. Snake Hill Road right-of-way, Aho Development, DEP file number 100-0454. We have anyone from Aho Development with us
Yep,
this evening?
Yep, Patrick Burke. I'm a civil engineer at Places Associates representing the applicant.
Good evening, Patrick. How are you?
Good.
Good. What do you have for us?
At the last hearing, we were requested to kind of beef up the cleanup and monitoring plan for the horizontal directional drilling. We received an example, which was very helpful from the commission. And we provided an addendum to the original monitoring and cleanup plan. And that's about all that we have for the new information.
Any other comments from you, Patrick, or from commissioners?
Nope.
Anyone who is listening or viewing on Zoom?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, who's speaking?
Yeah, this is Daniel Tracy.
Hello, Mr. Tracy. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good.
So, yeah, I just had a comment that at last meeting, we discussed the town line dispute. And I just wanted to make the commission aware that I did talk to the town administrator in Harvard. And he informed me that the Harvard Town Council is still reviewing that matter. So I would
Okay.
just ask that you take that into consideration and perhaps delay any decision on this NOI until that town line dispute is resolved.
Well, the town line dispute is not our purview. And so I think we will continue, but appreciate the input. Any other
Well,
comments? Go ahead.
could you clarify that?
We don't,
Yeah, because the utilities feed into the development that would be partially in Harvard by the granite markers.
every document that we've seen says the town lines are correct.
Right,
We've
but
got
that's the-
nothing that says otherwise. We're going to proceed with under the conditions, I guess, that the town line is correct.
Well, those documents are all based on a GIS survey that I believe Mr. Aho had commissioned. And it's 22 feet to one side of those granite markers. Those granite markers have been the boundary for years and years, and properties and the taxes for them, and the assessors vote on it every year to determine the taxes based on those granite markers. So the documents that you've seen, I believe, are all based on a separate survey that was done by GIS. But they're at odds with the historical boundary, and I think it's an issue that needs to be resolved before you can make any decisions on the utilities or construction on this project.
I can speak to that. We have
Go
a
ahead, Patrick.
licensed surveyor that researched the property lines and consulted with other licensed surveyors, and we believe as depicted on the plans and stamped by the registered surveyor, we believe the property line is correct as shown.
Did you have a comment, Ken?
My only comment was the same as Mr. Burke just said. There's no question about it that the drawings are stamped by registered professionals with licensed in the state of Massachusetts to certify what they're doing. Mr. Tracy just talks, like he wants to, but we have certified plans that differ. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. And you too, Patrick. Mr. Tracy, do you have anything else quickly to say?
No,
That you
not
haven't said- you
not
haven't said-
anything new. No, I've told
Okay.
you what I understand, and I think it's still an open question.
Well, all righty. Thank you for your comments and input. Anyone else have a comment?
As I know, the chairman of the planning board sent a letter to Harvard asking for results of that commission new work and has not received a reply. Is that correct? So without a reply from Harvard, I think Ayer, lacking any other proof,
Mr. Chairman,
move on.
Yes, sir.
this is Jeff Tillotson, and I'm going to answer Jess's question. We have not yet received a response from the select board in Harvard.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
I think
So-
we're going to proceed with this now. So is there a motion to approve the notice of intent? Snake Hill Road right-of-way, Aho Development, DEP, file number 100-0454.
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. We'll do a roll call. Jen, Amaya, how do you vote?
Aye.
George Bacon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess Eugenio, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark Phillips, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. Notice of intent is passed. And we'll work on orders.
Yes, Patrick, what we usually do, since you haven't been through this process with us before, is you and I will trade drafts back and forth until we're both happy. And we should be able to do that pretty easily, since our next commission meeting isn't till January 13th, I think, or 14th. Let me just-
What's the date?
14th.
14, thank you.
So we'll have plenty of time to work out the details.
All right, very good. Thank you all, and thanks for your comments, everyone.
Thank you.
For your
Have
time.
great holidays.
Have nice holidays to you, sir. Yeah. We have our next item this evening is a discussion by Solitude Lake Management, 2020 year-end
Continue
report.
the hearing.
I'm sorry?
Motion to continue the
Oh.
hearing.
I'm sorry. Yep, very good. Motion to continue the hearing at Snake Hill Road right-of-way, Aho Development, DEP file number 100-050454.
Continue to January 14th, 2021.
Correct.
I'll move.
Second.
It was moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jess?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. Thank you for correcting me. Our next item this evening is the discussion Solitude Lake Management 2020 year-end report for Pine Meadow, Flanagan, and Sandy Ponds. Dominic, are you
Yes.
with us? Good evening, sir.
Yes. Good evening. Thank you for having us on tonight for our annual quote unquote visit with the commission. We have sent along the written year-end report, so I'll just kind of quickly summarize the program for this year, and we can have questions and discussion after. So, I mean, this year was fairly typical management year. We conducted pre-treatment inspections of the ponds on looking at I have the 19 and 20 year-end report open. I'm looking at the wrong one. July 6th, we did surveys of all the ponds. Pine Meadow was in really good condition. We only found a small amount of variable milfoil up in the north end, kind of bordering the more emergent wetland plants at that end of the pond. Flanagan Pond, we found a fair amount of non-native curly leaf pondweed, very little milfoil. And there is, as we had talked about last year, there is some fanwort coming back in Flanagan Pond. Sandy Pond looked great as well. Just a few fanwort plants at the two inlets and some fairly sparse milfoil plants in the inlets and a couple places along the shore. So all the maps of the vegetation points are in the report. We conducted the first treatment of these plants, and that was done on July 13th with the Tribune Diquat herbicide for Pine Meadow Pond, the curly leaf pondweed in Flanagan Pond, and the milfoil in Sandy Pond. We also treated the fanwort in Sandy Pond with the Sonar 1 fluoridone granular herbicide at the two inlets. So that was for the submerged plants. We came back on September 23rd to treat all three of the ponds to thin out the floating leaf water lilies in Pine Meadow. That's kind of near the outlet, throughout the center of the pond, where we're generally leaving the north end and along the wooded shorelines untreated for habitat, and also the first couple houses along the dam there asked not to be treated as well. So those water lilies were left along that shoreline. In Flanagan Pond, same kind of deal. Tried to maintain the lily control in the open water along houses. Tried as best we could to do a little bit of thinning in the very shallow kind of northwest corner and the northeast end of the pond, and did some limited treatment of water lilies and in some small emergent plants near the beach at Sandy Pond and a couple of small places along the shoreline. We did return for the final post-treatment survey on October 22nd. And again, we have maps in the report. So basically no invasive species in Pine Meadow Pond. We found 2 milfoil plants in Sandy Pond that were pretty beat up, no fanwort. So the 2 sonar treatments and the inlets were successful. Flanagan's Pond, there was no curly leaf, no milfoil, but there was, continues to be fan wort. It definitely did expand substantially, but still not throughout the entire pond, but it did expand quite a bit from where it was in the fall of 2019. So overall, I think the continued management of the ponds has been working out really well to control invasive species, keep open water by selectively managing the water lilies. We did not treat the fan wort in Flanagan Pond, so I wouldn't say that it's at the point where it's been in the past when it's gone without treating, but certainly is expanding. We may want to discuss how to tackle that in the coming year. But I think overall, I think the program was a success again this year. So I'd open it up for some discussion and questions that the commissioners might have.
Any questions from commissioners? Comments?
Any feedback? Have folks heard from residents, or have there been any feedback from the public? Or
I think there were some comments. People thought there was an excessive amount of water lilies, I think. Wasn't that the comment in Flanagan's?
yeah.
But
Yeah,
we don't-
again, I mean, there's a couple places in Flanagan's Pond that are just, it's really not feasible to really get in there and manage water lilies because, we have floating islands. We have very, very little water to even be able to get into some of these places to selectively, treat those areas. And again, that's the northwestern part of Flanagan Pond, near where the water comes in from Pine Meadow, and a good portion of the the eastern lobe of Flanagan Pond, and as you all know, is extremely shallow through most of that area, especially as you get to the north side of that basin. Lots of floating islands, less than a foot of water in many places. So it's it's a deeper problem in those areas, and that can really be handled with trying to foliar treat water lilies in those areas. So I guess there has to be some, kind of, adjustment of expectations, what can really be done with these certain techniques. There are limitations to what we can do with the herbicide treatments in that pond.
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Jeff.
thank you. May I ask a question through you to Dominic? I am, like the chair, a resident who lives on Flanagan's Pond, and you just named the northwest corner. That's our property.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. It's very shallow and very challenging in this area. But my question goes back to milfoil, and I just don't know, so I'm asking. Increased nitrogen, does that give us more milfoil or less?
So in general, what's called the limiting nutrient, or what's generally in the least amount of supply that a plant needs, is usually phosphorus, more so than nitrogen. So that being said, rooted plants like milfoil don't need to get those nutrients from the water itself. The root systems can get that nutrients, both nitrogen and phosphorus, from the sediment. Typically, most pond sediments have more than enough of those nutrients to live happily. And that's, basically legacy nutrients that have settled out in the pond, or that were there originally when the pond was created. So that's really between the abundant sediment and the shallow water in that area. That's why we get a lot of that plant growth.
Thank you. No, I understand it used to be a meadow at one point, so not so long ago. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course. Anyone else?
Hey, Dominic,
Oh,
just curious about the, so with Sandy Pond, I mean, the fact that we see so much less invasive is just because of the depth, correct?
Yes, so Sandy Pond is, as you all know, the only real natural pond. It's a natural kettle hole pond, so it's more of a bowl shape. You have shallow areas just really around the shoreline, then it drops off fairly quickly to deep water where there's not too much depth for plants to grow, and that's as opposed to Flanagan Pond and Pine Meadow, which are fairly shallow ponds that were created by the damming of the stream there. So there's not enough depth anywhere really in those ponds to stop the plants from growing. And that's where, and then also the bowl shape too in Sandy Pond, a lot of any sediment that may be around the edges has a tendency to kind of start to fall in towards the middle. So a lot of times the natural kettle hole ponds, the shorelines, the shallow areas are more sandy, have less sediment. So that's also less hospitable for growth there.
Okay. I'm just looking at the pre-treatment, the post-treatment, and I can see that the milfoil appears to have been, was taken care of for the most part. The curly leaf, but there still was some fanwort pretty much in the same locations, and I guess I'm just kind of curious as to, what would your opinion be if we were to maybe not treat at all Sandy Pond next year? Just looking from a budget perspective.
Yeah, no, I think we've been really going after those inlet areas where the fanworts persisted because, I think we're getting less effective treatments because of water inflow. So it has been, we've had to treat those small areas, I think for three years in a row. And I think 2017 was the last, more lake-wide sonar herbicide treatments. And we've been doing just the inlets the last several years. And I think finally this was the first year we didn't see really any fanwort after we were done. So I think you're right. You're heading in the right direction there. I think if needed, we could definitely take a year off from doing anything on Sandy Pond, except for surveys.
Okay.
George, do you have a comment?
When you mentioned discussing options for treatment in the coming year, are all the options within the budget recommendation that you have in the report?
Yes. Yeah. So, I think, Pine Meadow Pond is going to be the same. I think for Flanagan Pond, we would be looking to do not a partial pond treatment with sonar pellets, basically. The other option is to wait another year and kind of do more of the whole pond treatment with the sonar that I think the last time that was done in 2017. We're certainly, definitely seeing more than we saw last year, but I think we're still less than 50% of the pond with fanwort at this point. So I think we'd still be able to go after it with partial treatments if that was something that was in the plans for 2021. If that's not an option, I think we could wait till 2022. But I think at that point we'd probably have to plan to go back to the whole lake approach.
We got to decide our budget pretty soon, so.
Yeah, and I think we'll definitely, I think in the report we had in the budget table at the end, I think we were at the high end of the $17,500 for Flanagan Pond. I think we'll given the expansion that we've seen since 2019, I think we'll definitely be, we'll definitely be looking at that, needing to be at that upper end of that range. I think that range is pretty much the same one that we had in last year's report. So I think with the expansion, I think we're definitely at the upper end of that range for the coming summer.
Okay,
Any other comments?
thank you.
Commissioners, comments from people listening or viewing? I guess the only one thing that's come to my mind was the fact that ponds got treated, and there was the second time, I guess, and there was very little notification done to tell people that it had been done.
Yes.
But I'm sure that'll be the last time.
Yeah, no, Joanne brought that to my attention, and that was definitely our fault. Usually we get up there and do the posters, a week or at least the week before the week of treatment. But there was a snafu in communication between folks in our office, and that didn't get posted till the day of. So. Yeah, we apologize, and definitely will make sure that does not happen in the future.
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Is the report quote unquote final, or do we have the ability to amend this before we fully accept, I guess?
Oh yeah, man, we're certainly always willing to, if you folks have some suggested revisions or see any errors or anything that needs to be fixed, we can do that. Sure.
Yeah, I guess just continuing on what John was mentioning, as I went through the report, it does happen to mention that a couple times, that sufficient, notification was made. And I think if we kind of pull that back and not have it quite as strong would be great.
Yeah, no, I can acknowledge what happened. Yeah, I apologize for not having that included in the text. I can adjust that and resend. Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Do we have time, Jen?
We do, yeah.
We are at time.
We have about 2 minutes left.
Joanne, did you have any comments?
Well, the one thing I would like to add to all of this is, in checking my office email today, we got email from a resident on Sandy Pond talking about cattails and phragmites, and he's included some photos and is wondering how the commission might be able to help with the shoreline problem of cattails and phragmites moving in and taking over.
Oh. Well, we've never tried to treat cattails, have we?
We never have.
Cattails are native. Certainly if the Phragmites is considered a non-native species. We didn't specifically map the out of water species, but I seem to remember that there's a pretty or a patch in the northeast corner. There may be other areas as well. Certainly something that we can add. That's something that we can do. It's something that gets permitted with the license to apply from DEP. We can add that it's the same herbicide that we use for the water lilies. So and it also could be done at the same time. It's totally up to you folks, but certainly something that can be added to the program. Cattails, it's up to you. It's a native species, but the water lilies are as well. I don't know to what extent it's a problem.
At the end in the final report, if you could give us some sort of a quote, let's say on the or a range, just like you did with the other stuff.
Okay.
Mighties, that'd be good. Thanks.
Sure, can do that.
And Dominic, how do you treat phragmites? Do you inject, or cut and dab or spray, or what's the method?
If it's a continuous stand and there's no non-targets mixed in, we typically will do a low pressure backpack sprayer from either from the water side on a boat or from the land side. And we foliar spray the Phragmites. If there's a concern with there being native species mixed into the patch, or if it's close to, say, some ornamentals or landscaping along the properties or something like that, cutting stem injection or cut and dab, or even hand wiping could be done.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Jeff, it's Jeff Tillotson.
Yes, Jeff.
Thank you. First thing I want to say is I really appreciate all the work that the conservation's done on working with our ponds over the years. I actually have seen a huge difference in just the 6 years we've been here on Flanagan's Flanagan Pond. One question is, I thought sonar was one of the targets for sonar were cattails. I'm not sure, it's been a long time since I did my pesticide work. But the other question I had was, I would ask you to take a look, a long, hard look on the ground we've gained and not losing it by possibly scaling back different parts of the program. We scale back a couple years from now, we go forward. That's just going to say that. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Yep.
We're at time, John.
All righty. We are at time. And if there's no other comments, we will we'll thank Dominic very much for his report and all his good work this past year. We appreciate it.
Great. Well, thank you for giving me the time to have this discussion with you. Appreciate that as well.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks.
Have a nice holiday, sir.
Thank you. You too, all.
Thank you. Alrighty. So our next item this evening is a request for certificate of compliance at number 270 Woodland Way, David Grubb, DEP file number 100-0442. And Joanne, you were out there before the snowfall to take a look.
I was, and lo and behold, the Grubbs have a backyard that you couldn't go swimming in if you tried.
That's a good thing.
Everything looks very good. The grading was done beautifully. The lawn had grown in. The water's not pooling in the backyard, nor is it flowing over the retaining wall down into the adjacent neighbor's yard. So I'd say all is well.
Good. Are you with us, David?
I am here, yes.
Are you happy with the results?
Oh, we are beyond happy. Honestly, it's better than we could have even imagined. So given everything that's gone on over the last 9 months, having a functioning backyard has probably kept me from moving into our shed. So we're very pleased with how things are working out.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. Any comments from commissioners? From anyone who is listening or viewing?
David, I was just wondering if any of you got to maybe transplant some of those little pines that we had talked about. Any luck with that?
So we actually did. We probably did about 5 or 6 of them. And quite honestly, they are already probably about 2.5 or 3 feet tall. We were actually just commenting about that the other day before the snow came. We were out there messing around, and we were kind of joking about how quickly they're growing, because all of this kind of started around the same time that our daughter was born, and we were just kind of joking that the trees are certainly growing a lot quicker than she is. So we were able to do about 5 or 6 of them. And the funny thing is, since the project was completed, we've probably had about 10 or 15 more that have just kind of sprouted up out of nowhere. So they're kind of taking over around the boundary, which is fine because, you know, we'd like to fill that in for privacy anyways.
Yeah, no, that's good. Great.
Yep. Nature has a way.
It certainly does. And I did just want to express again, you know, our gratitude to you guys for allowing us to do it, because it certainly does impact the quality of life that we have here on this property. So we are very appreciative of specifically Joanne's work, because she worked with us very closely throughout, but as well as the board for allowing us to do it.
Oh, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. Okay, so is there a motion to issue a certificate of compliance at number 270 Woodland Way, David Grubb, DEP file number 100-0442?
I'll move.
Second.
It's moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jess?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. Motion has passed unanimously. All right, David, have a very nice holidays and congratulations on your daughter.
Oh, thank you very much. And happy holidays to you guys as well. And I hope good health.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Same to you. Thanks.
Dave, I'll get this out to you on Monday. It has to go out certified mail, so you can be on the lookout for a piece of certified mail.
Perfect. Thank you again, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay. Good night, David. Next item this evening is a request for certificate of compliance, Page Hill Top School oil spill cleanup. Omni Environmental Diesel DEP file number 100-0425. And we have Seth with us, Donahoe with us this evening to talk about the cleanup.
Good evening, commission members. I believe Greg Morand and Stefan Landry of Omni Environmental are here as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Commission.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Greg, would you like to start?
I believe Stefan was going to, and I'm hoping he's going to unmute himself here in a moment.
We have that awkward silence. So
There we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
Are you there?
Okay. Yep. Go ahead, Stefan.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Chairperson and Joanne and all the other commission officials there. Thank you for having us.
Yep, welcome.
So this was a 800-gallon spill of number 2 fuel oil that began at the Page Hilltop School from a tank that was overfilled back in February of 2018. Most of the 800 gallons had released to a storm drain at that property and migrated through the storm drain system out to an outfall passing through 112 Washington Street, the residents there, and then to the parcel 1311, which is mostly, or a good portion of it is wetland. It's a vacant lot, was then and still is now. And at the outfall at the south end of parcel 1311, the oil left the outfall and split into 2 small streams that eventually led to a 50,000 square foot wetland, also within the majority of which was in parcel 1311, and a little bit which is actually in parcel 1342. You know, by the time we were done the cleanup and during the assessment, I want to say 98% of the oil was contained within those 2 parcels, probably 90% of which was only in parcel 1311, the vacant lot there. So we requested a notice of intent and then got a order of conditions in September that was recorded in September of 2018. We prepared a restoration plan for the wetland area that included replication of not only any removed wetland sediment, but also some plant species, 3 of which were woody plant species: red maple, speckled atlar, winter green holly, and sensitive fern, the non-woody, but those 4 species, as well as some wetland seed mix. So we removed from this wetland approximately 934 tons of number 2 fuel or contaminated wetland material from this area. Prior to that, we had removed a lot of the wetland species, most of which were invasive, such as barberry. So that was done with some clearing. We installed a series of access mat, about 1,000 square feet of access mats to prevent harm to the wetland area. That pretty much went the length of this wetland area all the way to the outfall, to transport vehicles, equipment, personnel, and so forth. So we removed this 934 tons of wetland sediment. And then once that seemed clean in accordance with Mass DEP MCP requirements, we submitted a permanent solution thereafter, which actually was done in September of 2019. But prior to that completion, we began the replication activities in January and finished in early February. And that replication was replacing whatever removed sediment was. So we put back 928 cubic yards of manufactured wetland soil that came from AgriSource and back into this remediated wetland area, and then follow that up with plantings and wetland seed mix. The total plantings that we'd ordered and planted were about 1,062, and about 320 were red maple, 160 were speckled adler, 320 were winterberry holly, and 160 were sensitive fern. We planted those throughout this 50,000 square foot wetland area. And in what we call 40 by 40 cells, of which there were 32 comprising this 50,000 square foot area. So of this wetland area, probably on average, only 50% was really hummocks or kind of more upper wetland material. We estimated based on the percentage of available plantable area. So even though we plant 1,060 plants, we had to focus on, of course, what we could in the hummock areas or the upper wetland areas. So we planted after we restored all that. Then basically we waited till the spring of 2019 to watch the growth, and which was pretty significant cover that seemed to come back. I'm gonna transfer this discussion of the wetland growth out there to our wetland specialist, Seth Donahue here, who has been involved since the beginning with this project to observe not only the pre-remediation conditions, but post-remediation as well. Not sure, Greg, if you have anything to add to that or want to.
No, I think you've touched upon it. I mean, the only thing else I would say is that the 50,000 square foot wetland was broken into 40 by 40 remedial cells, and backfilling as well as restoration were conducted kind of in a per cell approach. And I'm not sure if you'd mentioned, Stefan, was it 20 pounds of seed mix that was brought in?
Yes, I had mentioned that. Yep, 20 pounds of wetland seed mix was spread evenly across this area, of course, focusing on those parts of the wetland which are higher up and weren't really mostly wet. But yeah, we evenly spread that across these 50,000 square foot wetland area.
Yeah, and certainly from our viewpoint, we feel that the site has been well established with new ground cover, and we feel that the site is in a very stable condition and in an erosion resistant state at this point. But
Yeah.
I would allow Seth to put his input in from the wetland scientist perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. So commission members, Seth Donahoe with Dillis and Roy. I've been before you on other projects, and this project has been like no other, as the size and scale of what needed to be accomplished there was pretty impressive. I assisted in some of the initial delineations along with some of my colleagues, and then Omni Environmental had us come back in after the actual work was done within the cells to make sure that things were staying in an erosion resistant state. And as Greg and Stefan mentioned, the system that was used on the site was to address each area in a 40 by 40 cell so that the areas could be stabilized as quick as possible. And so that's when we came back in and made sure that under any rain conditions or as the growing season went on, any seed that was put down wasn't simply migrating to the low spots of the site. We sent some pictures along. I don't know if it's possible to pull those up, Joanne, or?
You could share your screen, Seth.
Okay. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So this area, there's 3 pictures in series here. And this is all looking from the Nashua Street driveway extension. And this is after the work was done. So our main goal here was to make sure that it's becoming vegetated, staying vegetated, and then making sure that native species are continuing to thrive there. So the top picture, which my cursor is on right here, that's after the first growing season. And you can see that it is well vegetated. The silt fence is actually for the driveway project, which is unrelated to this. These are mostly what beggar ticks was the dominant plant there. That was something that was in the seed mix. Later in the next growing season, you can see that it's becoming well established. There's a lot of cinnamon fern in the foreground. One of the priorities in addressing these cell by cell was to leave the red maples that are on hummocks so that we weren't essentially devoiding the site of any of the mature vegetation. And you can see the seed mix is filling in very well in the low-lying areas. The seed mix overall did exceptionally well throughout the site, and I'll have some other pictures to show that. And this was at the end of the current growing season. Cattails had become established there, and that was not something that was in our seed mix, so that had essentially come downstream to our site. But that's a testament to the soil being suitable in that area for other native plants to become established. So again, this is looking from one of the access points, which is on the Nashua Street driveway extension. All pictures show that it had in excess of 75% vegetated cover. The ground layer especially is probably in excess of 90%, even at the tail end of the growing season. This next picture is towards the top of the site. And I put this together to show the contrast between where work was done and where work was not done. And while the right side, where I've labeled area beyond limit of work, it looks like it has a very good established mat of woody vegetation. One of the unfortunate things with this site was much of the shrub layer and woody vegetation layer were invasive species. As Stefan mentioned, one of the primary problems was barberry. There's also oriental bittersweet, and there's multiflora rose, which is thick in all of these pictures. After the 2 growing seasons, we've been continually monitoring the planting areas, and we can happily report that none of those species are becoming dominant, or in most places, they're not even becoming established. This picture is one of the stream channels. The primary concern in these areas was that as they're low-lying and that there is a considerable amount of water moving through the site, we wanted to make sure that the seed mix or vegetation wasn't getting washed away. And you can see by the photo, we've achieved exceptional coverage by the seed mix. There's a lot of rushes becoming established there, with only the bottom of the stream bed actually having exposed ground in that. And the final picture, this is what was the storage area, which is also near Nashua Street extension. This was an area at the middle of the site where material was being transferred. As Stefan and Greg mentioned, there were some mats in place here and throughout much of the site. And those mats, the goal was to prevent the compaction of the ground. The long-term fear was, as there's over 900 tons of material being moved, areas would be crushed and it would be very hard for vegetation to become established. So you can see in the foreground, this was actually where the vehicles were transferring materials. It's become very well established with cinnamon fern, sensitive fern, many of our native ground coverage. And in the background, you can see a good perspective through the site where they've actually been able to maintain many of the smaller existing trees that were on the site and preserve a good canopy throughout the site. So overall, the seed mix has performed exceptionally well to the point that it has actually reached a higher coverage than what was anticipated. And the native vegetation is becoming established again. We're quite pleased with the way everything's come out. So with that, I'll turn it back to Greg or Stefan. And if the commission has any questions for me later, I'd be happy to address them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Seth.
Thanks, Seth. No, I think Seth's assessment there is very good. And, you know, it seems like we have a 90% coverage across the wetland area. Does anyone have any questions, I guess, at this point?
Questions from commissioners?
I have one.
Please.
Okay. Just in the letter from the professional engineer, Philip Wheeler, there was a decline in observed wetland plant species from 78.6% in 2019 to 42% in 2020. Am I reading that right?
I didn't quite hear that.
Okay, Philip Wheeler's letter.
Yeah.
I'm quoting, as noted in the attached plant counting table, the observed woody plant species count in 2019 was 78.6% of available upland area, while in 2020, the observed woody plant species was 42% of available upland area within the wetland replication area. So
right.
What accounts for that decline?
Yeah, well, I don't know, maybe the amount of maybe wetland seed mix that was so prominent might have somehow harmed the woody species, which we're focusing out there for counts. So it's really hard to say why the woody species did not survive as well, going from 2020 to 2019.
And Stefan, not to cut you off there, but I believe what was cited in the PE's letter really came from a lot of our site inspections on the property, where it was really the extensive emergent growth that was cited as being maybe a potential inhibitor on actual visual identification of some of those woody species.
Yeah, it was pretty. We felt that there might have been some that we couldn't see so well. Because of the amount of wetland growth of the vegetation. So there may have been more there, but that's as best as we could count. That's what we saw.
Right.
Yeah, if I may chime in on that, as I was one of the people that did or assisted Omni in doing the final count. As you can imagine, counting individual plants over a 50,000 square foot area, there is going to be some variation in the count from time to time, season to season, as certain things later in the growing season, smaller plants are covered up, and we're doing our best to count them while also not step on them. So there would be some variation in that number. So I believe Greg and Stefan's assessment of that is correct. But overall, we consistently found that the area that had been disturbed had exceptional ground cover, and the red maples that are left behind are doing well in there.
Yep, and Seth, you touched upon this as well as Stefan. You know, there was a significant concerted effort during the remedial program to work around as many of the well-established woody species as possible. You know, we even had to approach some of the excavations in multiple stages to, you know, literally only remove what was required from a regulatory standpoint while trying to save as many of the more established woody species as possible.
John, we're at time for this.
Okay, so quickly, any other comments from commissioners?
Just
Or-
quickly,
There was
the
an
rest of the
issue.
species. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, George.
Go ahead, George.
There was an issue at the outfall regarding how much flow was going into which channel. Has that been solved?
Yes, sir. Yes. So, initially when we did the backfill, it was 1.5 inch crushed stone that was approved and utilized at the stormwater outfall, as well as some additional larger rocks that were put in place to slow the velocity from larger storm events. As you can imagine, a lot of water coming off of Washington can rip through there pretty quickly. In addition, that work also coincided with a marginal relocation of the stormwater outfall. Was actually about 4 feet closer to the western channel than the prior outfall pipe had been. So there was some notation through some inspections as well as through the commission that there seemed to be a little bit more flow to the western channel versus the east. In June of this year, we went out and relocated some of the crushed stone and a few of the larger rocks. And we had sent some videos as well as some photo documentation to Joanne, which in our opinion really showed a much more even distribution of flow to both of the channels.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, and I did get that video, and it was not technically feasible for me to send it on to you all, but I've been up there and inspected the outfall, and I've had DPW actually, Stefan and Seth, you'll be relieved to know that the blue pipe is no longer there.
Yeah.
Dear.
Yeah.
Right.
I know we're at time. If I sacrifice my office updates, I think we can keep talking about this a little bit. I've got some photos, sort of historic photos that I could run through with you all. My concern is that the understory, the woody understory of this 50,000 square foot area is missing, really. The replication plants, the alder and the winterberry are doing well. The new red maple, when Stefan and Seth and I were out there, I'm not sure we found one. Did we find one that was alive?
No, there are several, but you are correct, Joanne, in that the red maples have not fared well. And I will comment on that one thing that didn't exist when we started this project was the driveway and the culvert at the bottom of the site.
Right.
It's an unrelated activity to what's gone on here, but it's my opinion, having been to the site several times, that as that was installed after this work was done, it's essentially serving as a dam at the bottom of the site. And the lower region, as Greg mentioned, they're in cells, and those would be the higher number cells. They're significantly wetter than when we started this project. And I'm sure the commission knows, but a red maple is a facultative plant, so 50% upland, 50% wetland, and whereas the alder is something that is fact wet and much better suited to that environment. I think that's why we're seeing that drop off in year 2 of the red maples. It's simply wetter, and the plant can't survive there. So it's certainly still a functioning wetland. It's just the maples that exist will be on the hummocks. Those were the ones that were preserved. And unfortunately, the ones that were planted in the low spots are having a tough time.
So you feel that this is a change in the conditions, nothing to do with what you did, like you said, that will make that area not a good place for red maples to grow?
I think where the red maples are growing is where the mature ones that existed on the site prior. So much of that would what we would call probably a pit and mound topography, or it had hummocks, and those plants had become established on high points within the wetlands that seasonally probably dry out a little bit more. They had the buttress roots. All of those have been preserved, and that's where the trees will remain. So at the time, many of these plants, I'm sure Greg and Stefan can tell you that the contaminated soil was primarily in the low-lying areas of this, and that's where they had to remove it. And therefore, that's where we had to plant things. And so as plants went
That's
back
correct.
in the low spots, we're seeing some of the plants that were rated FAC wet and the seed mix doing exceptionally well to well. The red maple, which is a kind of a 50-50 plant, is having a harder time in the lower regions of the site. Now, some of them, I've been back out there since Joanne and I were out there, and some of the ones that look like they're dead actually do have some sprouts forming at the bottom of them. So they are taking, if their long-term success can be established. I don't think any of us know that, but Joanne's assumption is correct in that plant is not doing well in that portion of the site.
Right. You know, they were, I inspected the plants when they were delivered and they were beautiful. They were much bigger than I was expecting they would be. They have not thrived. And I'm trying to share my screen, but I have a new computer and
Joanne, is it the PowerPoint? I can share mine.
yeah, that would be great, Jen. I think my problem is it's trying to open in Keynote.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh gosh, you guys remember all this? This was just.
Yeah, brings us back.
Yeah.
Not in a good way.
No.
You know what, Jen, I might have to have you drive I'm not sure. I don't have PowerPoint. I have a Mac, so.
Just tell me when to go to the next picture.
Let's see, if you could start at the first picture.
Sure.
Yeah, there we go. So this is the guys literally mopping up the oil. And my reason for showing you these photos is so that you can see the understory, the large shrubs and small trees that existed the day that the oil spill happened. Next, Jen.
Yeah, I think that's that's not the wetland area though. That was not. That was near the streams, the east and west streams on the south end of the site, and they were in the middle of the stream.
Well, we'll hang on. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Next, Jen. Oh man, the red stuff is the heating oil. They dye it red.
Right.
Next. So that's the wetland. And you know, there's a lot of woody understory. Next, Jen. That's also the wetland. So
That looks like that's looking into the upland channel. I can see the crushed stone next to the gentleman in the yellow there, Joanne. So that's like probably the far upland end of the wetland looking toward Washington Street. You can actually see 112 Washington, Rebecca and Jorge's house in the background.
Yep. Next, Jen.
So the maples that were planted again were 2 to 3 feet high, right? So what was the rough diameter of something like that? Half an inch, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, or less.
Okay. And they've been planted for about a year now?
This is second growing season now.
2 years? Okay.
Next, Jen.
And typical growth on something that was half an inch or smaller would be maybe an inch in 2 years or less still?
I think they really get taller than they gain diameter when they're young like that.
Okay.
And the growing tips of these plants died. So this is really just so you can see there was an awful lot of woody material taken out of that 50,000 square foot. This is kind of on the edge. I know that birch tree, and anybody who's walked this site would know that cockeyed birch tree. The man from Trident, whose back we're looking at, is standing right where the mats would
Yeah,
have
the axis map path, yeah.
gone through. So the wetland is a little more to the right on this picture, but you can see there's an awful lot of small trees in there. Next, Jen. And then there weren't very many small trees. Next. This is was taken shortly after some of those 900 tons of manufactured soil was put back. You can see the trees that were remaining are probably really four inches in diameter and up. And all of that slim woody material is just gone. Jen, this is taken from the edge of your driveway.
Gotcha. Looks familiar.
Yeah. And the last picture is, you know, the pre-cleanup. The middle photo shows the fantastic growth of the wetland seed mix and the manufactured soil that still is awaiting things to sprout. And then the picture on the right, I took the other morning at like 9 o'clock when the sun wasn't even really going to, it didn't want to rise. It was so dark, but that's looking up into, Seth had a picture very similar to this. All right, those are all the photos I've got. Thanks, Jen.
Sure.
My concern is that while we do have fantastic coverage of the ground, it's with herbaceous material, not woody material. And I would recommend commissioners that you think about engaging Paul McManus again to just look this over and see what he might add to the conversation.
Good.
I know it's hard to say, given time and the big red maples or the bigger red maples that are there, will it fill in with woody material from other sources?
Well, we have to remember that the red maples that are remaining had their root systems severely compromised by all that soil removal.
Yep.
And if when the driveway was built, it is acting like a dam, it's wetter, those trees may be compromised too. And maybe they won't seed in. And I think the intent of this restoration / replication was to put back as closely as possible what was removed. And while we have something that's green and vigorous, it's not the same as it was.
What type of a woody plant would thrive in the changed conditions?
Well, as we saw, the alders are doing really well. The winterberry is doing really well. The maples are not doing well. There are probably other plants that in the drier part of the wetland, witch hazel
If I could comment for a second, commissioners?
Please.
One of the things that was of utmost concern in the beginning was the plethora of invasive species. It wasn't like there was one type. This had the normal run of most of our common ones around it and within it. And I don't disagree that the change in woody vegetation is apparent at the site, but I think some of those pictures, some of the things that we're seeing in those pictures are whether it's bittersweet, barberry, there's a lot of invasive woody vines that made that look a lot fuller at the beginning. And now that it's essentially restored and it is establishing quite a good ground layer at this point, it does look a little bit different, but I think that needs a little bit of time, and it'll essentially be better than what was there when it started.
Well, and I would agree that there were some invasives. They were closer to the Washington Street end of the site. And as you moved away from the inhabited backyards of people with landscaping and moved down closer to Nashua Street Extension, it was less invasive. And I have to say that the guys who did the cleanup did a really good job of getting the invasives out. They really
Yeah, the barberry was extremely prominent.
If I may just make a comment that certainly, Joanne, I recognize the point of some of the larger woody species that were left behind did have a little bit of compromise to the root structures. You know, I think that they have rebounded fairly well. I would maybe offer up to Seth if he had any opinion on those and their ability to perhaps reseed in as time goes by.
Yeah, I think that's extremely likely. I'm just going to pop my shared screen up again, if that's all right.
Yep.
So this would be exactly what Greg's talking about, where you can see that there's numerous 4, 6, some 8-inch DBH, mostly red maples within the wetland area that are still there today. You can see that it does have a canopy in place. And this is very early in the growing season when this picture was taken as well. So this area does fill out more, and I think those plants will indeed find their way. They got there originally. I believe this site was probably a cleared agricultural land, as it has evidence of farm crossings in it. And this is probably the second growth forest that we're looking at there that unfortunately had this event occur to it. So it is likely that some of those will reestablish on their own.
Jen, do you have any comments?
I mean, it fills in beautifully once everything's grown up. So we'll say it looks good in the summer. That's all I got.
Yeah, Mark, you had something I think you wanted to say earlier too, but.
Well, I guess, you know, I'm just trying to understand exactly, and I know this is right when I started with the commission, so a lot of this stuff was way over my head. Now, as I think back, though, I mean, we approved the planting method, right? The option 2, the on center of the cells, I believe, correct?
Yeah, there was a certain number of plants that were supposed to go in each cell.
And we approved the size and type. I think I kind of remember looking at all the stuff, right? So 2 foot high, 1/2 inch in diameter, woody material is what we agreed to, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had.
Jess, your comments?
Just throwing out there, certainly perhaps just having an evaluation by Mr. McManus might be good, or delaying issuing the certificate till we as a commission could do a site walk ourselves in, say, mid-spring when things are starting to come back in to evaluate.
Okay. That's a good comment. Thank you. George?
Yeah, I agree with Jess. I think we need to put eyes on it, and wouldn't hurt to have Mr. McManus out there as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good idea.
I mean, I think they did a great job. It's just, this was such a big site and such a big impact.
Oh.
We want to make sure.
I thought it was so impressive what they did, what you guys did in there. It was really a
We appreciate that.
huge job. And yeah, we appreciate what you did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank
the guys from Trident, the ones who were actually in there literally with 5-gallon buckets and hand tools. They're really, all the professionals were great. They were the unsung heroes of this operation.
Right.
Yeah, we appreciated what they brought to the table, and their hard work and dedication was certainly a huge part of the project.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The nights that they stayed out there 24 hours when we were expecting rain, really. But commissioners, I do think getting your eyeballs on it and having Paul's opinion added to the mix is, I recommend following that pathway.
Everyone agree with that? Jen, you agree with that? George?
Yeah.
Mark?
Sure.
Jess? Yes. Okay.
I mean, I think it's also just underscores that, Omni and Trident and all did a fantastic job. This just, we don't want to like go another year and then suddenly things are going south. That looks bad for you guys as well. And so let's just ensure that, we did everything to make sure that your great job was recognized and really set. So.
If this is going to get delayed for the certificate of compliance, would there be something like a partial certificate of compliance that could be issued for everything but this one issue? Especially since it involves other lots that are currently being developed or are now developed.
I don't know. Can we do that?
Well, there's been a partial certificate issued for those 2 lots that were on Trevor Trail, 13 and 14, yeah. 14 and 15.
That was related to our work?
Yes, those 2 lots were impacted. CJ Moore reconfigured the lots. We issued partial certificates on the reconfigured lots, and that's where that new parcel was created. So
and that was for this file number?
Yes.
Okay.
So to my knowledge, there isn't anything in a development pathway for which we could issue a partial.
Parcel 1342 is a developed parcel now. That's the Nashua Street extension. I want to say number 72. That's I think it's a blue house in the back there. That's the crossing.
71.
Oh, 71. Okay.
That's the Clintons, and they've lived there for a couple of years already, Jen, I think.
Just over a year, I think.
Yeah, so somehow they managed to buy that house with this order of conditions in place.
John, just a heads up, we have 16 minutes left total.
Total. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Is
I
it
think we're
partial
going to leave this.
compliance just to the benefit of that single lot, or is there other reasons for doing that?
Well, I know.
Oh, go ahead, Stefan. I don't want to.
Part of our cells do extend into, I think, maybe encroach into a little bit into that lot. But 95% of the work, the wetland area, is in parcel 1311 only.
Right, and that's the landlocked,
yeah,
all but landlocked piece that Calvin Moore owns. John, I would recommend that you guys continue this to our next meeting so that we can give the
Yep.
chairman of the planning board his time.
Yep, I agree. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for your time this evening, and I think we'll continue this. Is there a motion to continue the certificate of compliance at the oil spill cleanup DEP file number 100-0425 until our next meeting, which is January 14th.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay.
Moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. All right, gentlemen, thank you for your time. We do appreciate it, and we will continue this until the 14th.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate your
Thank you,
time.
everyone.
Good night.
Have a happy holiday.
Happy holidays. Yep, to
Thank
all of
you.
you. Okay, our next discussion item this evening is the coordination of open space residential developments, the OSRD process with the planning board. Sorry about the short bit of time, gentlemen. But
Unmute.
please continue.
Jeff, unmute.
You're muted.
Bonnie wishes she had that button. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, for allowing me to address you this evening. I want to make sure and just say it out loud that the planning board is not currently in session for this meeting, but I sit here after having spoken to the individual members of the planning board about this. We do currently have a project in front of us that has brought this to made me aware of a procedural thing, and I wanted to actually talk to the board, to the commission, and find out how we can probably move forward. With the change in the bylaw and the addition of section 10, it was perceived that we would be working in coordination when a project came to the town. I'd like to figure out how we can do that.
And your thoughts are?
I'm opening it to the floor. So what happens is oftentimes projects will come to us in the town, and they come into different departments in the town, and I'd like us to work. I would hope that we would work more closely than we have up to this point. Mostly in the last meeting, the proponent was a little confused on how he would work together, on how it's not clear. We haven't done it before. It's new to all of us, but we're currently moving forward. We have a ticking clock. We have to give a proponent an answer before your next meeting. And I don't know that we have clear guidance, and I don't want the planning board to, I don't want to be in a position where we remove the primacy of the Conservation Commission on how on how projects move forward. So really what I want to say is there some way we can do this? How would we be successful when a project comes to conservation or planning that would be an OSRD that we coordinated?
Well, I was under the impression that the commission's agent and Mr. Archambault work closely together.
Yes, I would say that is very true. And from my perspective, and of course I'm not a commissioner, but I carry out their wishes. I feel like we pulled a shiny white rabbit out of a hat for this current OSRD in terms of working with Oxbow to edit and update their conservation analysis and making our recommendation in a really timely, tight time frame, so that we were not the ones holding anything up on the part of the planning board. And it's my understanding under the OSRD bylaw that the commission has an advisory role to the planning board, but that it is in fact the planning board's decision as to what land gets set aside for protection. Commissioners,
Yeah, I have a comment.
And how I remember the bylaw, it's essentially that, again, they come forward, Oxbow provides a conservation analysis, we review the conservation analysis, we say, hey, yep, we agree that this stuff is probably the highest priority habitat that, should be preserved. Looking, for the right percentage, let's say, of property to be set aside. And then at planning board, you guys take that into account with, whatever subdivision plot is provided by the developer, let's say. But again, from our perspective, we don't want to see that subdivision at all because we don't want it to pre-describe anything, or prescribe, whichever the right word is. But, as Joanne said, we kind of look at it as an advisory, and then if you approve a certain type of layout, then we would obviously work with the developer, for the stuff that we have jurisdiction over, is essentially the way I saw it.
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman, when I get a chance.
Yep, we'll let you, Jess, can you go first, please?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think some of the thing has to do with the order of how things are being done. And, we share this conservation analysis guidelines with the applicant, and Joanne says she always makes clear to them that that they really shouldn't be doing their layout engineering. It's not that smart for them to be doing their layout until it's been determined what's the land that should be protected versus what's not. But it seems like the applicants are still going by the old way of doing things, which is to come in with their subdivision plan already in mind. And I think that has an issue then for the planning board, because that starts your time clock, right?
Well,
Yeah, and so it seems like if there's a way to slow down the applicants from and to go by in the guidelines and also the bylaw, so that they are in discussion about what is the high value conservation land before they begin doing their layouts.
And George, you had a comment?
No, I agree with Jess.
Okay. All right. Ken, what was your thought?
Well, my thought is that, Jess is on the money, and I think the thing that's important to remember here is this is a preliminary plan. So I am on board with the sequence. It's happened. So we can reject a preliminary plan and it has no value whatsoever. They can come back and change it completely on the definitive. So we are early, and it's great to have the Oxbow consideration. I think the difficult part for us is to take what's called your recommendation and turn it into a hard fact. That's where I think I'm hung up, is we all agree that, and I'm a proponent of it, that when you passed a bylaw, the local bylaw that said we want the buffer zone to be a resource area that you control, that put a whole new spin on the OSRD. So there's things that have happened that have evolved outside the OSRD planning board process that have, been driven by the whole town's, ability to try to protect those resource areas that are now defined more closely. I think the problem is that the applicant, this is also new, as Jeff pointed out, the first two were an attempt to kind of squeeze it into a tighter piece of land. These folks happen to have the luxury of a large piece of land. So and the other problem is that every single one that comes in, the actual builder themselves has a preference for what their particular development style might be. So one thing that we did get from this gentleman is that he told us his development style, we questioned on is, prefers to do single family homes and prefers to do them in a lot size about what he showed us, about 10 to 12,000 square feet. That's based on their history of performance and their success in that type of housing. So I think the thing we're going to face is how strong do we take your recommendation and turn it into our vote. And that's, I think, what we're hung up on a little bit. So I was going to suggest, I didn't talk to Jeff about this. I was going to suggest that somehow in the process of OSRD, that the two boards meet in between somehow, that we have a separate meeting with a single topic on it, which would be, you know, the application's in, they're working on it at Town Hall, Joanne, Mark, and so forth. And then you have your recommendation, but we don't just get it in a graphic or a you know, a piece of paper. Maybe we sit down and say, you know, how strong do we feel about this? And I'll be quite honest with you, we did our site walk last weekend, and my opinion changed after I'd walked that site. And I walk by it a lot. I live right down the street. But having walked on the land and saw where the wetlands were located in the topography of the land, I got a different opinion of what looked like on the drawing. So it's almost like conservation and planning have to probably meet after you have a site walk and we have a site walk, or maybe we do it together. And then just iron out, you know, we're going to give a little here or not. That's the first comment. But I'd like to think about one other thing, and that's really what is going to be important to me. Is I think I brought this up maybe offline with Joanne, and we just threw it out as a question, but it'll come up when we look at the drawings and we see the entire site, and we're basically looking at dimensions and things on a plan, where you're looking at the actual field conditions and flags and distances somewhat differently than we are. We have a legal obligation to approve it if it fits. But the problem is that every single one of these that has an impact on the wetlands can have either and this is the question I'm going to bring up for you guys, and eventually it'll happen. Do you issue one certificate of compliance for the project, or do you look at a lot by lot notice of intent for each project's lot? So I think that's complicated. In this case, there are some lots that are, you know, impacted by the buffer zone, and many that are not. So I don't know how that proceeds legally, whether you're allowed to give one notice of intent to the applicant for the project, or you have to look at it in phases or lot by lot. So I think that's an overriding question too, for me anyway.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ken.
And that we've, and George, you can speak to this too. I mean, I think we've done some subdivisions where we've done a blanket order of conditions. And then we've done others like Pingree Hill, that we did a blanket order of conditions for the streets and infrastructure, and then house by house orders individually. And my own feeling is that we get into less confusion and other difficulties when we do a lot by lot order of conditions for those houses that are actually jurisdictional to us, instead of doing a blanket order for the whole project. And I guess I would prefer that we go that route more generally with subdivisions.
Does it depend somewhat on how the applicant comes to us though? If they apply with a notice of intent for the whole project?
And that's where I think
If
Mr.
I may.
Nathan could say something.
If I may, Mr. Chair. It's obvious to me we've got people sitting around the table who are all very engaged in this topic. And I think and we are all coming from a different, in some ways, we're all thinking about different parts of it. And this is where the coordination is actually missing right now. And when you say to me, how would we do it? I don't know. Joanne, to answer your case, if it comes as an NOI to you, how does it get started? If it comes to us, how does it get started? We're going to have to iron out those things a little bit. And again, talking about the project in front of us would be unfair to the applicant because it's not on the agenda. But figuring out how we can go forward, I am more than happy. As Ken says, we work with lines on a page, and if it fits into Mass General Law and our local zoning bylaw, they can do it. We want to work very closely with conservation to make sure that what conservation wants to accomplish ends up in the final plan. That's where the negotiation is going to happen between conservation and the applicant, and planning and the applicant. And finding a way to get the information together earlier, I think will benefit everybody, including the town.
Well, I think Ken's suggestion that we do have a joint meeting at some point
Yes.
prior to you starting the process with review of a subdivision plan. But after our site walks is a good one. I was just wanted to hear from George regarding Ken's question.
I'm sorry, Jess. I'm sensitive on the time, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but.
We're at 9 o'clock too, by the way.
I know. Thank you, Jennifer.
George, did you have a quick response on the orders of conditions for a whole subdivision or the individual lot thing?
Yeah, that's typically been up to the applicant and how they want to apply for it. Although maybe under our bylaw, we could change that.
I'd be more inclined to follow like what Jess was saying with the individual lot. I think that's more appropriate.
I agree.
Yeah.
If I may, in this case, we've seen the lines on the paper of approximately 30 lots, approximately 10 aren't touched by any type of BVW or other high priority land in the eyes of the Conservation Commission.
Right.
So I would recommend a lot by lot if it was but that's not my purview. So I know we're short on time, and I guess the question is moving forward, do we want to set up, do we want to do a meeting? Do we want to do not the whole commission, whole board? How do you want to handle it?
When are you guys meeting on this one next?
The Tuesday before your next meeting. No, we're meeting
Next Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Excuse me for a moment. We're on the 22nd. And then we meet again on the 8th of January, and you guys don't meet again until the 14th. This project is not, it's acute right now because we have a project going on, but I also think we should probably get our ducks in a row for the future so that when applicants come, I'm sensitive to them coming to us and having to redo work.
Yep.
Also.
No, we understand what you're saying and where you're coming from, and it's all good.
I guess the one thing I'd like to state, and kind of maybe I'm totally missing the point here, but they provided the lines, right, Jeff? So we've identified what we feel is high priority. However, we don't have jurisdiction over everything that we identified as high priority. The idea behind high priority is that we think it adds value somewhere along the lines, and that would be, something that you guys as a planning board should consider. But I don't think the lines that they've proposed are going to work, especially within our jurisdiction. But again, while we identified things as high priority, it may not be that they are not allowed to develop there, correct?
It's going to be individual to each application, Mark, and I did provide back. They overlaid the graphic that came out in the recommendation. They actually overlaid that onto the plot plan they're using for the OSRD, and I shared it with some of you guys. So you see so this is again hypothetically. I have a letter saying don't do this, and then I overlay the two, and I say okay, and I can't give up. I can't take primacy on conservation issues, or excuse me, I say the planning board cannot remove primacy from your conservation commission by making judgments. And so starting out somewhere earlier in the process would get us to a more cohesive end.
I'm not sure if there was any earlier point, but we're here now, so let's progress forward for sure.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it might require rewording the bylaw a little bit, because right now, I mean, as I told you in my letter, Jeff, the language of it gives conservation a consulting role, but not a determining role.
It does, and in a funny way, Jess, I'm sorry, it also flips over and makes planning board the decider of conservation impact, which we don't want to happen.
No, the conservation impact, I mean, they still, if it's jurisdictional to us, they still come to us for an order of conditions.
Exactly.
We're just giving you our,
So I think we do have food for thought, and we have a reason to get together in a meeting. am sorry. And I appreciate your time. I do.
You have a
One
comment?
Yeah, one final thought. It's evident from what we're talking about that there's, some things that need to be tweaked. And this is one of our concerns, is that I attended the conservation meetings, as you know, that Alex Para, presented for the applicant and spoke about it. So I think Jeff and I are trying to get to the point where when they come to us and they say, yeah, we know the conservation has identified the high priority, but it's not jurisdictional to them. So we're just going to go ahead. There's a possibility of them saying that. So the definition of high priorities, as we all know, is different from person to person. And we've all been through that. So I'm just looking for a way to say, you know what? Conservation says this is the way we should go, and that's the way we're going to go. And then we'll, struggle through the approvals based on that.
I mean, just because land is jurisdictional doesn't mean it can't be developed.
We know that firsthand.
We understand that.
Right.
You can fill 5,000 square feet or 4,490, whatever the number is.
But if we're looking at a large tract of land, not all of which is jurisdictional,
right,
we're taking into account what gives that continuous corridor, say for wildlife, as in the natural heritage portion here.
Right.
So,
I thought the thing that was fascinating here is they got the no-take letter from NHES on the NHESP parcel so early, which shows they're out there working the project, and they're very serious. So,
and Attorney Parra has a great deal of experience with this. He's been doing this for a long time. So,
thanks a lot, guys.
I kind of,
gentlemen, we need to wrap this up.
to be continued.
Should we try and come up with a subgroup meeting or something, or how do you want to handle it?
Well,
You want me to
I'll
talk to-
defer. You can discuss it amongst us. Thank you for letting me bring it on the table. I think it's a rich topic for us to talk about.
Yep, I agree. We appreciate you guys coming too. We really do. I think in the near future, it's probably not a good time. It's not for me.
Mhm.
I'm leaving for Ohio on Saturday, hopefully to return. And so anyway, I'm guessing in the new year we will try to sit down.
Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. We all need to work together.
Mhm.
So very briefly, anything from commissioners you need to talk about?
Just at our next meeting, we should put as an agenda item a discussion of what we want to do on pond treatment or not. And because we'll have to get out if we decide to go forward, we'll have to get out a request for proposals soon, or if we decide to hold off a year, we'll have to make that decision or whatever in between there. So
I think I agree. Get that on the agenda for next time. Anything else? Okay. Well, we're 8 minutes over.
Oof.
So we're not going to do office updates.
No, and I wrote them down. I don't know why they didn't end up in the Dropbox folder. My apologies. They do exist. I'll make sure you get them.
Okay. All right.
we could comment back to you with anything individually.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion was moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jess?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. I hope you all have a great holidays, and please stay safe.
Oh, I have to be the first one. See y'all next year.